21 years later, NCIS Darkest Tony. Episode lands twice as hard. It has been 21 years since audiences experienced the first serious, life-threatening danger for a member of Gibbs's team on NCIS. Since then, there have been many characters who have come and gone, but something about this particular case hits harder, especially today. Season 2, Episode 22, Swake, which stands for Sealed with a Kiss, opens with banter between the squad, just like any other. However, tensions quickly skyrocket as Tony DiNozzo opens an envelope with an unidentified white powder, later said to be Y. pestis, pneumonic plague, in it, earning him a free trip to Bethesda to be pricked like a pincushion. Post 9/11, many television shows, books, and films explored the anxieties of not feeling safe at home. Shows like 24, Person of Interest, and The Americans are a bit more on the nose of this description, but NCIS is right alongside them as commentary on geopolitics. These anxieties, highlighted by Gibbs's team's cases and tactics to solve them, resonated with audiences in the early 2000s. What many hadn't experienced yet was the idea of a disease without a cure killing them or their loved ones. This was something taught in history class, not experienced in the 21st century. By 2005, if the pneumonic plague in the envelope sent to NCIS had survived the post office's irradiation and been contracted, it would have been treated with hospitalization, quarantine, and an antibiotic. The catalyst for this episode is that the specific strain of pneumonic plague to which DiNozzo is exposed has been genetically altered to resist antimicrobials. Today, audiences live in a post-COVID world and have a different relationship to stories of infectious diseases, biological threats, quarantines, and the uncertainty surrounding them. The pandemic made contact tracing, quarantine, and continuous testing a regular part of everyday life. As a result, there is now an added layer of realism and emotion that is uncomfortably familiar. While the fear of anthrax in the NCIS episode Swak was rooted in real-world experience, most viewed it as the episode's hook rather than something they could relate to. Now, audiences viewing the deteriorating condition of DiNozzo, the scramble for a cure, and the worry on the team's faces through the lens of COVID, empathize with the story and see it through the lens of the world's shared trauma. In 2005, the audience knew DiNozzo as the charismatic, chauvinistic comic relief character on the team. He was full of movie quotes and possessed sharp instincts and street smarts that, thanks to his time as a homicide detective in Baltimore, made him a valuable member of Gibbs's team. But he wasn't vulnerable. Until he was. The envelope containing the Y. pestis wasn't directly addressed to DiNozzo, but rather NCIS Special Agent. But his ego got the better of him. He is supposed to be a ladies' man, so who else would an envelope sealed with a kiss be for? The moment he opens the envelope, he knows he's made a mistake, and the audience can see it all over his face. DiNozzo rarely takes direct accountability, but in this episode, he apologizes numerous times and is visibly concerned about the consequences. DiNozzo and Agent Kate Todd go into quarantine as the most susceptible to the disease, and this is where his vulnerability is really introduced. DiNozzo's condition is worsening with every passing minute, prompting him and the audience to realize for the first time that these characters aren't actually invincible. This is a revelation that he really struggles with when he believes Todd is infected. DiNozzo being stripped of his control and humor is a turning point for NCIS, introducing a more emotional arc and marking the first signs of an incident that will cause lasting change in his character. Although the show was in its infancy, this also reveals the connection the audience has formed with these characters. Having lived through a global pandemic, it is easy for those watching to understand both DiNozzo's desire to laugh off his traumatic experience and why he can't. Watching him become ill and not knowing how he will be treated or if he will survive is an experience many know all too well. Decades after its premiere, NCIS is described as a comfort show by many who repeatedly binge it on streaming platforms. However, in Swake, there isn't much comfort for audiences as they can see themselves, their families, and their friends in each character in this episode because of COVID-19. The pandemic left a lasting impression on the world and everyone in it, giving a new perspective on how this experience could have a lasting impact on DiNozzo. For longtime NCIS fans, Anthony DiNozzo has always been the team's comic relief. Whether he was quoting movies, teasing McGee, or driving Gibbs to the edge with his endless jokes, Tony brought energy and humor to nearly every scene he appeared in. Yet beneath the wisecracks and movie references, NCIS occasionally revealed a much darker side to Michael Weatherly's beloved character. More than 2 decades after the series premiered, one episode stands above the rest as Tony DiNozzo's darkest hour, and remarkably, it hits even harder today than it did when it first aired. Season 2's emotionally devastating episode, SWAC, remains one of the most unforgettable installments in NCIS history. Originally airing in 2004, SWAC centered on a terrifying bioterrorism scare. After a mysterious envelope coated with a deadly substance arrives at NCIS headquarters, Tony is exposed while examining the package. Almost immediately, the normally fearless senior field agent becomes gravely ill, forcing the rest of the team into quarantine as doctors race against time to identify the toxin and save his life. At first glance, SWAC appears to be a standard procedural thriller. The episode delivers everything viewers expect from NCIS: suspense, urgency, and a race against the clock. But what elevates it into something far more powerful is the way it strips Tony of every defense mechanism he usually relies upon. Throughout the series, Tony often hides behind humor. Jokes become armor. Sarcasm keeps difficult emotions at arm's length. Rarely does he allow himself to appear vulnerable, especially during the show's early years. SWAC changes that completely. As Tony's condition rapidly deteriorates, audiences witness something almost unheard of during the first 2 seasons: genuine fear. The charismatic agent who normally dominates every room suddenly becomes helpless. Confined to a hospital bed and separated from his teammates, Tony can do little except wait and hope he survives. Michael Weatherly delivers arguably one of the finest performances of his entire NCIS tenure. Gone are the playful one-liners and exaggerated expressions. In their place is quiet desperation, exhaustion, and uncertainty. Weatherly allows viewers to see the frightened man beneath the bravado. The episode also profoundly alters the audience's understanding of the team dynamic. Much of early NCIS focused on establishing relationships between Gibbs, Kate, Tony, Ducky, Abby, and the newly introduced McGee. While viewers knew the characters cared about one another, SWAC was one of the first episodes to demonstrate just how deep those bonds truly ran. Perhaps no moment illustrates this better than Kate Todd's refusal to leave Tony's side. Despite the potential danger, Kate remains emotionally invested in Tony's survival from beginning to end. Their relationship had often been defined by playful bickering and flirtatious banter, but SWAC reveals the genuine affection hiding beneath the surface. Sasha Alexander and Michael Weatherly share several deeply emotional scenes that resonate even more strongly knowing Kate's tragic fate later in the series. Watching the episode today adds an entirely new layer of heartbreak. Modern viewers know how many losses Tony will eventually endure. He will lose Kate. He will watch Ziva apparently die. He will spend years carrying emotional scars while continuing to mask pain with humor. Seen through that lens, Tony's vulnerability in SWAC feels less like an isolated incident and more like an early glimpse into the emotional burdens he would carry throughout his life. The episode also benefits from hindsight regarding Tony's overall character arc. When NCIS began, some viewers dismissed DiNozzo as little more than a cocky womanizer. Over 13 seasons, however, the series gradually transformed him into one of television's most emotionally complex characters. Revisiting SWAC after seeing Tony's entire journey makes the episode extraordinarily poignant because audiences now understand precisely who he will become. His courage in the face of death, his devotion to his team, and his hidden sensitivity are all present years before the show fully explores those traits. Interestingly, SWAC has become even more relevant in the years following real-world global health crises. Modern audiences inevitably bring additional perspective to stories involving quarantines, infectious threats, and uncertainty. Scenes depicting isolation and fear now carry emotional weight that viewers in 2004 could scarcely have imagined. That unexpected real-world context amplifies every tense moment. Yet despite its darkness, SWAC ultimately succeeds because it never loses sight of hope. The episode reminds viewers that NCIS has always been about family as much as investigations. Tony survives not simply because doctors find a cure, but because the people around him refuse to give up. 21 years later, SWAC remains one of NCIS' most emotionally devastating episodes. More importantly, it serves as a defining chapter in Tony DiNozzo's evolution from class clown to one of television's most beloved and layered characters. Some episodes entertain, others shock. SWAC does something far rarer. It reveals the soul of a character, and after all these years, that revelation still hurts. Thank you for watching. Write what you think about it. Subscribe to the channel.